was out on the West Coast trying to make a buck, and things didn't work out. I was down on my luck. Got tired of roaming and bumming around, so I started thumbing back east toward my hometown. Made a lot of miles the first 2 days, and I figured I'd be home in a week if my luck held out this way. But the third night I got stranded way out of town at a cold, lonely crossroads. Rain was pouring down. I was hungry and freezing, done caught a chill, when the lights of a big semi topped the hill. Lord, I sure was glad to hear them air brakes come on. And I climbed in that cab where I knew it'd be warm. At the wheel sat a big man. He weighed about 210. He stuck out his hand and said with a grin, "Big Joe's the name." I told him mine, and he said the name of my rig is Phantom 309. Well, I asked him why he called his rig such a name. He said, "Son, this old Mac can put 'em all to shame. There ain't a driver or a rig a-running any line that's seen nothing but taillights from Phantom 309. Well, we rode and talked the better part of the night when the lights of a truck stop came in sight. He said, "I'm sorry, son, this is as far as you go, 'cause I gotta make a turn just on up the road." Well, he tossed me a dime as he pulled her in low and said, "Have yourself a hot cup on old Big Joe." When Joe and his rig roared out into the night, in nothing flat, he was clean out of sight.
You probably see them every day, going down the highway hauling freight, cars, livestock, and just about any heavy thing you can think of. You've been told these trucks are the backbone of our country, but I'm sure that's a bit harder to see now when the majority of the notable things you've probably seen involving trucks were negative. Trucks run into the median, flipped over, broken down, on the side of the highway with a blown tire, cutting you and other drivers off, and trying to pass another truck on a hilly interstate while running 1 mile an hour faster than the guy they just had to pass. It's very frustrating. I almost guarantee if you've been on the interstate in the last week, you've seen at least one of these things. But as I stated, these trucks are the backbone of the country, right? It's been preached to us, at least in the Midwest, since we were kids. Why is this? Well, to find out, we have to go back in time a little ways. All the way back to the 70s, during the CB radio craze. Now, I'm willing to bet most of you weren't alive during the 70s. Not even close. But I bet you've heard the hit 1975 song, Convoy, that's playing right now. A song that topped #1 in the country and pop charts, and is just a song about truckers running from cops across the country. It's also about a protest, but the story is a video for a different day. This song and the culture of trucking were so popular that a movie was made by the same name, Convoy. And when I say culture, I mean it. These baseball cap wearing interstate cowboys were known as the heroes of the highway. They were respected, a sign of nobility, a dream to strive to. Movies, countless songs, and even at least one board game I found were made completely around the culture of trucking and CB radios. The best way to understand trucking culture in the 70s is just to listen to the music made because of it. Artists like C.W. McCall and Red Sovine come to mind. I'm not actually sure if I'm pronouncing it right. You don't read Sovine or Sovine very often. With the previously mentioned Convoy by McCall and Red Sovine's country masterpieces such as Phantom 309, Freightliner Fever, Roses for Mama, Giddy Up Go, Little Joe, and his own #1 hit, Teddy Bear. These songs tell incredible stories about the trials, tribulations, and triumphs that truckers experienced on the road, solidifying them as the folk heroes of the 70s. So what happened to trucking? Why isn't it as respected as it once was? Well, as unfortunate as it is, according to personal accounts I've read and heard, the children who grew up loving truckers and aspiring to become them in the 70s weren't nearly as respectful as the drivers that came before them. In this way, it seems a loud minority did quite a bit of damage to the reputation of truckers. Over the decades, the reputation of the trucker went from noble hero to disrespectful and entitled road hogs. Now, I don't think the majority of truckers earned this reputation, but unfortunately, it just stuck. And of course, that isn't all. Trucking as an industry has been bleeding for decades, especially in recent years. In fact, very recently, legendary trucking company YRC shut its doors very suddenly, leaving nearly 30,000 scrambling to find new work, one of which was a trucker I consider a grandfather and the inspiration for this video. The trucking industry has faced nothing but adversity in recent years. Insurance premiums continue to rise, while insurance companies target truck drivers and rarely lose. This constant risk doesn't make the job nearly as appealing as it once was. Fuel prices keep going up, freight is not nearly as abundant, and a lack of new drivers has led to a driver shortage. In fact, the average age of truckers in the US is 46 years old. The solution that companies have now found is hiring foreign drivers for cheaper, and the drivers are not the problem. I have seen some bad drivers, but there isn't an exclusive demographic. I see firsthand that these drivers are being taken advantage of. Nothing but a warm body in a truck that the companies see as expendable. This perfect storm is dangerous and has made owner driving nearly impossible for the average person, which has led to the rise of hotshot drivers, drivers in smaller trucks hauling DOT violations. And I don't want to hear that this isn't true, because as a tire tech, I've seen more than a couple steel wheels cracked from overloading on hotshot trucks. Trucking has gone from a respected career to a dangerous and despised pursuit. This is wrong. Trucking is still the backbone of society. Not all drivers are to blame for the poor reputation they've received. In fact, I'd argue most are still those ball cap wearing road cowboys of yesteryear. This notion that truckers are all bad is one of the great downfalls of the industry. Who would want to join a field where you're seen as trashy and irresponsible? And how would you feel in that industry? It's a brutal cycle that breeds bitterness and resentment. The truckers are not all to blame. The main culprit is the companies who treat drivers as items and numbers to make a profit. So to answer the question, what happened to the heroes of the highway? Nothing. They're still here, driving construction materials and equipment to a new children's hospital, hauling cattle that will be used to feed you and your family, moving your future daily driver to the dealership. Every time you see that truck and trailer going down I-29, that's a hero. The industry has never been perfect. There are bad eggs, but the heroes are still here, moving freight from one side of the country to the other for you and me. The ghosts of those 70s legends still trucking down the highway.
Well, I went inside and ordered me a cup. Told the waiter Big Joe was setting me up. Oh, you could have heard a pin drop. It got deathly quiet, and the waiter's face turned kind of white. Well, did I say something wrong? I said with a halfway grin. He said, no, this happens every now and then. Every driver in here knows Big Joe. But son, let me tell you what happened about 10 years ago. At the crossroads tonight where you flagged him down, there was a busload of kids a-coming from town. And they were right in the middle when Big Joe topped the hill. It could have been slaughter, but he turned his wheels. Well, Joe lost control, went into a skid, and gave his life to save that bunch of kids. And there at that crossroads was the end of the line for Big Joe and Phantom 309. But every now and then, some hiker will come by, and like you, Big Joe will give him a ride. Here, have another cup, and forget about the dime. Keep it as a souvenir from Big Joe and Phantom 309.